Talking with famous people.
Hi friends, host Eric here, talking with famous people. You left a comment asking me to comment on this video, and I thought it was definitely a topic worth addressing. What is high functioning autism?
One of the most important things to say is there's not actually an official diagnosis of high functioning autism. There is an umbrella diagnosis, which we call an autism spectrum disorder. They're going to be able to hold a job. They're going to be able to do their basic life skills, like make themselves food, dress themselves, do personal hygiene. Those things are going to be no problem. The biggest difficulty that people with high functioning autism have is around social interaction and communication. And in the past, they might have been labeled as a nerd or a geek. There are certain behaviors and ways of speaking which are fairly distinct: social interaction and communication. And these symptoms run the gamut from difficulty with reading social cues to difficulty with eye contact, as well as sometimes difficulty with perspective taking or understanding where another individual is coming from. Social cue difficulty might show up as I don't give you enough space, maybe talking too loudly for the situation, monopolizing the conversation around a topic that they're really interested in. Or these skills, which we call kind of social pragmatics, are a really key difference between somebody struggling with high-functioning autism and somebody who we would refer to as neurotypical. Difficulty with eye contact to the point that it's noticeable, as well as often a difficulty with small talks, preoccupation with routine, engaging in certain repetitive behaviors. When they are interested in something, they go into it 100%, is having a very intense interest in one area, and when that area is sort of exhausted, moving on to another area. So because they have such an intense interest in preoccupation, they will correct people. 9 times out of 10, if you get corrected by somebody with high-functioning autism on their facts, they're going to be right. Tendency to have sensory overload. So, for example, they might do okay in a regular school setting or a regular classroom, but when it comes time for the pep rally or the assembly, they can become super overwhelmed and shut down. Or an adult with high-functioning autism might be able to go to the grocery store, but if they're, in an area where suddenly a large crowd develops, they might be significantly distressed. They might seem rude. If any human being feels trapped and in sensory overload, they might react by pushing somebody out of the way to get out of the situation. So I think there is a distinction that needs to be made between having difficulty putting yourself in someone's shoes and imagining what their experience might be, which is empathy, and feeling hurt or sad or afraid when somebody else is in pain. And they may not be able to take the perspective of someone in pain. They are truly concerned when someone is in pain and they want to relieve that pain. And there's a really interesting fact around people with high-functioning autism and something called mirror neurons. And so mirror neurons are these neurons in the front of our brain here, in the prefrontal cortex, that help us recognize and imitate behavior in others. And what they found is that in people with autism spectrum disorders, they have fewer mirror neurons than the neurotypical individual.
This is so ridiculous. This is not a disorder. First of all, she agrees it's not a diagnosis. Instead, the diagnosis is autism spectrum disorder. And we know it's a disorder because it's characterized by criteria, which isn't even using the word criteria correctly. It's diagnosed according to criteria would be correct. May function well, hold jobs, self-care, do all the things normal people do just fine. That's not the issue. Okay, so why is it a disorder? Well, because social interaction and communication is bad. I mean, they're bad at reading cues. Well, sometimes I'm bad at reading cues. They don't like eye contact. I don't like eye contact. I don't like eye contact because it distracts me from what people are saying, to be picking up on their FE cues. Small talk. I don't like small talk either. Equivalating, which is a made-up word I made up here for this, making equivalent perspectives of other people to one's own in some regard, or understanding, conveying a ability to put oneself in another person's shoes. Well, I mean, that just sounds like polar FE to me. Preoccupation with routining and stemming, which is what we call when autistic people do repetitive behaviors for the satisfaction it gives them. It's called stemming in the special ed community. I was a special ed teacher for 8 years with the county, And when they do things like this, autistic people who actually have autism, they do shit like this. It's called stimming, self-stimulation, short for self-stimulation. Topic delving depth. They're pedants. They know a lot about a topic, and when they're done studying a topic, they'll move on to another one. Maybe I'm autistic. I do that. I mean, I don't know if I learned a topic at that great a depth, like this lady's saying, but I definitely, when I exhaust a topic, and move on to another one. One nice thing about cognitive functions, it doesn't really exhaust. There's lots of things you can interpret through the frame, infinite things you can interpret through the frame, and one's nuanced understanding grows over time. It's like one's, it's like my basic understanding of cognitive functions isn't changing much at this point, but my nuanced understanding of how people's behaviors and interactions reveal things is continuing to grow. So on an engineering level, my expertise will probably never stop growing to some extent as I learn more and more about people. But on a theoretical physics level, there's only node work left to do. Correcting, being a pedant. Uh-oh. Come on, INTPs, let's toss you into this autism pile too now, all of a sudden. Sensor alert, no pep rallies. Well, I mean, who wants to go to a pep rally? Nobody. Except for, no intuitives want to go to the pep rally. Who wants to go to the pep rally? Sensors. This is like, okay, intuitives. We figured out what's wrong with you. You got a disorder. You're intuitive. And that means you don't like sensory shit. And you don't like sensory overload. Not polite when stressed. Who is polite when stressed? Who's more polite when stressed? Everybody gets, at some point, their stress will break their politeness down, right? Misconception. They don't lack empathy. Okay, well, if they did, that would be cause for us to actually consider this a disorder in some way. But nothing I see here suggests that these people suffer from a disorder except being different from you in some way. That they're FE polar would necessarily suggest that over the course of their life, there has been less of a demand for, and therefore less development of, these mirror neurons that you're talking about. I bet you if we looked at everybody's mirror neurons who's FE polar, they'd all have reduced numbers of them. And if people who have FE dom, we probably have increased numbers of them. It'd be a great test. I would love to see that test. If in fact these mirror neurons do what they say, then let's do that empirical test and find out. Let's get some, solidly obviously ENFJs and ESFJs, and get some solidly obviously INTJs and ISTJs, and let's do this mirror neuron test and see what comes up. But regardless, this is not something that you have. You cannot have this. This is not a thing to have. I mean, let's do this for ENTP. Okay, so now number 3, they may function fine. They may be able to take care of themselves. They may hold a job. They may, support a family or something. But they're going to have a really difficult time with feeling satisfied with just any same old routine. So they're likely to change jobs a lot. They're going to be chaotic all over the place. Okay, this is one of the criteria we use to diagnose spastism spectrum disorder. Okay. Now look, as far as the social interaction communication, they'll be too loud. They'll talk too much. They'll want too much attention. They'll maybe engage in bragging. They won't seem to respect other people's feelings. They just cut them right down and always disagree with people, and it's awful, this disorder that they suffer from. They don't seem to think that it matters really what's real or what people feel, just what they say, and the words are the only thing to care about. It's strange when you interact with them. It's like, wow, what's wrong with these people? They have a preoccupation with lots of little little physical tics that are designed to, I guess, satisfy some need to connect with their body. They tend to be smokers a lot. They're constantly fiddling with their face and their chin and their beards and stuff. This is one of the ways you can tell if somebody has this disorder. Topic delving. They'll bounce from topic to topic. They'll be all over the place. If you ask them to make a video about a single topic, like what size turtles are or something, they'll end up talking about Aborigines in Australia, and make some sort of random link to it, and it's like it's a problem, And then the other thing is they tend to really get easily overwhelmed by a lot of extra sensory stuff. So maybe they usually get car sick or seasick, or you take them to Disneyland or something, they'll just want to leave right away, and it's like they won't even prioritize other people's feelings or anything. They do have empathy, though. I don't want to give you any misconception here. Even though they seem to have no grasp of emotions or their own feelings, really, that doesn't mean they don't care about people. They still do have those feelings. They just aren't able to understand them. You see, there's these self-evaluatory neurons that we have that studies show that people who have this disorder, they have fewer of these self-evaluatory neurons because there's something wrong with them and they have a disorder, and it's called being an ENTP. That's what this bullshit is. That's exactly what the fuck it is. And it's nothing else. Harumph. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.
Talking with famous people.